Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Lunchbox webinar today. We're so glad you're with us. We would like to acknowledge our partner, Lifetime Foundation, for sponsoring today's webinar event, and we thank them for supporting Chef Foundation program. Today's webinar will focus on the School Food Support Initiative grant opportunity. It's an 18-month grant program that provides the technical assistance and strategic planning and funding opportunities that are needed to improve school food operations. So today, Beth Collins, CAF Director of Operations and School Food Support Initiative grantee, Megan Gower, Director of School Nutrition at Buford City Schools, are both with us to share information about the School Food Support Initiative program services and the impact it's having in school districts and some steps for submitting your application. So let's get started with some introductions. I'm Curry Rosado, Programs Director at the Chef Foundation. And our guests today are Beth Collins, as I mentioned before. Beth is Director of Operations at the Chef Foundation and owner of Lunch Lessons, LLC, which is a school food consulting company that she operates with Ann Cooper, our organization's founder. Running today's webinar is Emily Miller, our Marketing and Education Manager, and Emily Gallivan, our Administrative and Programs Associate here at the Chef Foundation. Our guest presenter today is Megan Gower, Director of School Nutrition at Buford City Schools. Megan is in her 5th school year as the Director of School Nutrition for the district in Buford, Georgia. A registered dietitian, Megan also holds a master's degree from the University of Alabama. Megan is a leader, a true leader in school food change, and her district is part of the first School Food Support Initiative cohort. Megan's going to share her experience with the application process and the School Food Support Initiative program today on our webinar. So I'd like to go over our agenda, and before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping notes. First, our agenda. I'll share with you about the Chef Foundation, who we are and what we do and where we work. Of course, we're here to all learn about the School Food Support Initiative. We'll go over applying for the School Food Support Initiative grant. Then again, you'll hear from Megan and Buford City Schools grant experience. And we will definitely leave time for questions today. So before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. We have a really large group of participants today, which we're very excited for, and we would like to allow about 20 minutes at least for questions after the presentation is over. So Emily and Emily here will be tracking the questions, and we really want to encourage you to type your questions as you think of them. Don't feel like you have to wait until the end. So go ahead and type in those questions in the box below the Ask drop-down menu in the Q&A panel. And leave the recipient as all panelists, please, and then click Send. And if you have any technical issues during this presentation, you can also type those into the Q&A, and we are here to assist you. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the Chef Foundation. We were founded in 2009 by Chef Ann Cooper, a pioneer in school food reform. And our foundation helps to ensure that children across America have access to healthy, fresh food at school. Our expertise lies in providing the operational support and technical assistance, as well as online resources to affect school food change. And by providing school food operators and school communities with tools and these trainings and resources, as well as funding through grants, we help schools create healthier food and also help them redefine lunchroom environments. Our vision is to help schools take action so that our children have access to this fresh, healthy food every day. And to date, we have reached over 7,000 schools and 2.6 million students in all 50 states. We are committed here at the Foundation, at the Chef Foundation, to providing schools with funding through programs like the one you'll hear about today, the School Food Support Initiative, also Project Produce and the Let's Move Salad Bars to Schools. We also have programs such as the Parent Advocacy Initiative, and we are here to help provide tools and resources that schools need to make the switch to healthier meal programs through resources found on thelunchbox.org. So with that, we're really here today to learn and talk more about the School Food Support Initiative. And at this point, I'd like to turn the program over to Beth Collins. Beth, welcome, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Curry. So, like Curry said, at CAF, we are providing a lot of, our real focus is technical assistance, and probably the number one question that we receive from school districts around the country is, how do we start? How do we start to make change, or how do we continue to improve our systems? And assessment is the process that we found is really critical to being able to have an unbiased deep dive into a district, and something that I've been doing for over 10 years, going out into school districts and really taking a deep look at the operations and how they're working now. Without a good view of where you are now, it's hard to figure out where you want to go. So we had a lot of discussions about this with our partners. We get a lot of support from the Lifetime Foundation. They're one of the key supporters of the Lunchbox, which is our website that has a lot of the technical tools and resources that we use in assessment, and also Whole Kids Foundation, who's been a supporter of the foundation from its inception, helped us build our first website. They're a huge partner in Let's Move Sal Bars to School. So we had a lot of thought processes and meetings, and these two partners decided that they were really interested in the concept of helping a group of districts work through the process of identifying the key actions that they need to take to continue to grow. So let's advance here. I think we have a thank you slide. There's our partners. And they're awesome groups to work with. They both do fantastic work in the field, and we're really fortunate to have partners like this to work together. So the School Food Support Initiative is, we're saying it's roughly 18 months. The commitment really is to be followed once you're done with your direct assistance. You are still engaged for a couple of years providing data, follow-up data. But overall, it's about 18 months of engagement. The program services, the cost of having the consultants and the workshops and the travel and all of that engagement is about $192. We just kind of took the total and divided it. We're looking to fund up to 7 school districts. It really depends on the size as far as the amount of time that comes into the size issue. So we'll look at, really depends on the applicant pool. We start the project with a really cool workshop. We had just a blast with the group that we did this year. We met in Boulder, and it was a real intensive. Boulder is a fantastic district as a model. They've been doing change work. I actually did their assessment in 2008, and my business partner, Ann, is still there as the director. So she was always working as the director, so she doesn't come out on the assessments. I still do the assessments, but what it does provide is a perfect lab environment to demonstrate some innovative practices and best practices. And I think Megan will agree when she gets on. It was really great, I think, for the districts to be able to go into another district, kind of take a look at what they're doing. We had the district team was one of the panels that we talked about, and then we talked really about we really went through this process of change. What is school food change? And we spent a lot of time on that. and also had a lot of fun over that intensive. And the next piece is the assessment piece, and that's where I show up with my financial analyst, who is Maureen Farrell. She's from California. And we come on site. We do collect some data beforehand, and so that we have a sense of who we're visiting. Some of that actually is in the application. We'll talk about that in a little while. And we are on site, depending on the size of the district, for several days. And basically, I call it the data collection, but it's a lot of interface. We do provide TA very often. It's not like we're scientists. We're really engaged with the district through the process of learning about you. And then we leave and we take all that data that we collected, and we usually are following up because you can never really have enough time on site. And we put together a report. And the report process, it's really important, I think, primarily from the standpoint of the report's not just for the food service team, it's really for you to use with the district. One of the big challenges we see around the country is food service is very often kind of off to the side. They're not the highlight. They're not the top line feed for the district. They may be a service and identified and important, but not necessarily seen as a lead from the education side. And the report and the interface with district leadership provides districts that opportunity to showcase who they are, why it's important, why the work you do is important, what are ways that you could gain more support from the district, how you can help the district, and how the district can help you. So we find this to be a really important piece, important tool. And then that report is presented in it's a session usually lasts about 90 minutes. We come back to the district, or I do. It's usually me and Ann that come back. And we present the findings and give whoever is invited to it, and that's really becomes a discussion with the district who's going to be at the debrief. And we present the findings, and it's an opportunity for the community, whoever's at the session, to ask questions. And then following that, we do an abbreviated strategic planning, but it's really based on your recommendations. We go kind of back through what the findings were and put together an action plan to assist the district. And then once you're through that point, there's another application process for the systems grant, which follows that. So once you've completed that piece, you can apply for that systems grant, $50,000, and then there's 20 hours of technical assistance that's available to the districts remotely. So depending on what your needs are, we'll actually schedule that so that you know it's there, and you have the opportunity. It could be reviewing stuff, or we could be looking at things. There's lots of things that could be, depending on what your situation is. And then we also are creating a collaboration. The concept really is that the cohort of districts will have access to each other. I think one of the best ways that we learn is really from our peers. And I think over time we expect this program to continue to grow so that we have this network of districts across the country that are kind of, going through similar processes. Districts, we see as much as they may be different, you all are running the same program. So the federal program's the common denominator, and then we see, depending on where you are, the demographic, the resources, different paths that people take to either having to make profound shifts to a model, or sometimes there's a lot more finesse. You might be further down the road, but you really want more tweaking and more support. So we see that collaborative part as an opportunity. The timeline, people always ask, well, what is the timeline? It's a little hard to actually nail it down, because we do start with the workshop in late winter, probably be early March is what we're thinking. That's, I think, when it was last year. It might have been in February last year. And then we work out a schedule of the districts, the accepted districts, based on the district calendars, our schedule, and it just last year's group or this year's group really worked out based on geographically. People had just different end times on their school calendar year, and we were able to have a pretty good flow of getting to the districts. But we don't do all the districts at once. We actually start and finish a district. We don't overlap the districts. My brain just doesn't work that way, so it's better if I'm not overlapping districts. And then we work out the debrief visit coming back. Really depends on the length of time that the district wants to sit with the findings and their calendars, and getting superintendents organized and things like that. And then once you've completed that process, you can apply for the systems grant, like I said before, and then we help you set up the technical assistance stuff so that you feel like you have contact and follow-up after that. And the eligibility piece, you do have to be running the National School Lunch Program to apply. That's true for all of our grant programs that Chef Ann operates. Demonstrating support from district leadership is an important piece. Like I said, you might feel like you're operating in a vacuum, but when you want to make your program maybe more complex than it is now, or you need more support because you need capital investment, or you need to change your organizational structure a bit in order to achieve some changes in your operation, it's really critical to have support from the leadership. And it could be your direct report, which it could be the business services department or the CFO. Some smaller districts are reporting directly to the superintendent. That's true for Megan, who's going to come on in a little while. But the district leadership piece is important when we look at the longevity and the longevity of change. Really, everyone knows that the superintendents may come and go. So then there's also the board piece. There's looking at trying to get your policies set up so that they're kind of supporting your vision. So that piece is very important, and without the district leadership piece, it's real hard for a lot of food service teams to get done what they'd like to do. The other piece is the 7 ingredients of concern. This is part of the lifetime program model, and let me find this is actually, we see a lot of districts writing in some changes in their ingredients that they want to try to reduce through their wellness policies. This is a real common thing, actually, in school districts that are interested in going to preparation, which is really whole foods based. Pretty much if you're using whole foods, it's going to drop out things like high fructose corn syrup, artificial colors, artificial sweeteners and preservatives, trans fats, which are already banned in the USDA, and then things that are harder to pull out of the food stream in school meals. But we have a lot of districts that are focusing on shifting their procurement to improve this, is hormones, antibiotics, and bleached flours. the bleached flowers piece is actually kind of working itself out through some of the whole grain. Some of the manufacturers in whole grains are really, changing the profiles of how they're making their grain products. So that is really improving. But the 7 ingredients concern is a real focus for the Lifetime Foundation, and I think it's a real great cornerstone piece to look at and say, okay, this is how this is going to impact our menu planning and our procurement. We really want to work with districts that are committed to implementing scratch cook, working with whole ingredients. We have a lot of, you'll run into a lot of districts that they're really interested in it, but they are so far away from that piece that they operationally, they actually don't have equipment anymore and things like that. So there's a real spectrum for where a district might fall in that area, what their history is. I go into most districts. There's usually someone still left in the team that remembers when they did scratch cook. That's very common. I always try to find that person because there's always good stories from remembering what the district was like then. But we have to be honest. I think in most systems we're, in some cases 20 years from when the district may really truly have scratch cooked and brought in whole ingredients, meats, and things like that. So, but we are looking for districts that are already working on it, or clearly committed to having that as part of their as who they are. And ideally, I think if you're smaller than 3,000, that's just the number that pretty much through our work we found the districts that are in that 3,000 at that threshold are big enough that they've got some systems that kind of make sense when we look at how complex the assessment process is. Usually at that size, we see more engagement from food service in the actual physical management of the department. When we get into the smaller districts, they may have less control over the physical management side, which actually makes it more difficult for them to be more able to lead changes in the department because they don't have as much control over the way the fund is managed. And a portion of the available funding will be reserved for schools that are within 20 miles of the Lifetime, a Lifetime. I don't think they call them gyms. There's probably somebody from Lifetime listening in. They're saying that's not what we call it. But the beautiful Lifetime locations where you can work out and do all kinds of cool stuff. They're really fantastic. I've had the pleasure of visiting one of the home locations in the Minneapolis area. But the Lifetime is located all over the country, and they have some neat educational programs and volunteer programs that they want to engage their members in with districts. So that 20-mile range is trying to maintain that commitment to connecting their constituents with the districts in their area. So it's a cool thing. So it's pretty easy to apply. A lot of our applicants have applied for something else, so you're already in our grant system. But you'll go to either the Chef Ann Foundation website or the Lunchbox to the grants page, and you click on it, and you're there, and you start filling it out. I will take full credit for writing the application, because I've filled out my share of grants over time, and you think, oh shoot, there's just too many questions to answer. When I went through it again today, I did add a bunch of questions to the application this year, And that's really just so that we have a better picture of who you are before we talk to you. I don't think it's really, it's not too bad with regards to grant applications. It's broken up into sections. We do ask a lot of questions about the team, details of who you're working with. So there's a lot of fields there if you have a big team to fill in who everybody is and what they do. There's a section on really just asking basic questions about your district. Everything from, a copy of your academic calendar, your enrollment data, social media stuff, your website. We're asking for meal count data for the last full year. Things like your site type, the types of sites you have, how many service days you have for breakfast and lunch, your eligibility information, enrollment and eligibility information. This is all stuff you have, so hopefully you can put your finger on it. I don't run into too many districts that can't put their finger on their meal counts, so that should be not a problem. We ask questions like, what type of an operational model are you running? Why are you interested in the grant? And do you have any bonds going on or plans for construction? Where are you in that piece? We ask about other types of programs you might be supporting, whether you've got contracts to do, could be Head Start contracts, or you might have catering contracts with a neighboring district or a charter school. We ask for site staffing information. How is the staff configured? Are you a union? Which programs are you running? Which federal programs, grants, background? And we ask things like, what do you see as your primary challenges? That's an important one. Wellness policy, some menu information so we can take a look at what you're doing now. We're asking for procurement data. We're actually asking for velocity reports. I do find that sometimes is a challenge if the district doesn't regularly ask for velocity data, which is basically it's a report that's going to show what you purchased from a vendor in the prior year, and it's a detail report, and we describe it in the application. And most vendors that are fairly digital, it's not really challenging for them to run. It's really valuable data and very handy data. We ask some information about your commodities, whether you're doing a fresh fruit and vegetable program, things like that. And then some physical data. We tried to be really specific about what we were looking for this year, because last year we got a variety of reports, and then we had to just keep going back to get what we really wanted. So we tried to make it a little simpler this year, and we asked questions about your software, and that's it. So it looks like a lot, but I think it's totally doable, and I love looking at the app. I always get excited to look at who's applying. It's just, but of course I'm a data hound, so I love this stuff. And this is stuff I was just talking about, the checklist. And basically, again, make sure you have support of your leadership. Talk to your boss about it. Say, like this. It is really a great opportunity, and Megan will tell you her experience with it. But you're working with your district. You really can't be an island and do this kind of thing. So that's an important piece, and we have emphasized that in the application this year. And when we do selection, which I'm sure somebody's going to ask this question, but when we do selection, we narrow down the potential applicants, and then we do phone interviews, and we are going to ask to interview whoever your direct report is this year. We didn't do that last year, and we felt like that was a missing piece. I think it's much it's better to start with the connection from the beginning, because then you're kind of going through the process with somebody, because it really is it it takes some, it takes some work to go through an assessment, but I haven't worked with a district that hasn't felt like it was really beneficial. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Megan. She's going to tell you about her experience.
Thank you, Beth. Hi, everyone. As they said, my name is Megan Gower. I am the Nutrition Director for Buford City Schools. I know that they told you guys a little bit about our school system, but we have 4 schools, and I am the main person in charge for our nutrition department. I have a little bit of help at the central office with some clerical things, and then our finance department helps with some of my bookkeeping, but I do not have anyone in our central office solely dedicated to school nutrition other than myself. So as you can see, our student enrollment is about 4,600 students. We have 4 schools. There's 29 members that I have on my staff, and you can see our ADP for last school year was about 57%, and our free and reduced rate is about 44%. So we are a smaller district. We're growing, but we are definitely small. So one of the reasons, well, I'll tell you a couple of the reasons that I initially applied for this grant were, like I said, it's just me and my nutrition department. So sometimes having that outside eye come in and see the things that we're doing and point out areas where we can improve is very helpful. I'm in my schools all the time. I see things that are going on. I'm the one creating the menus. I'm the one doing all these things. So I don't pick up on everything because a lot of the times it's just very, I'm doing the same things over and over. So I don't pick up on some things that a Beth or an Ann or really anyone would when they come from another district. So I was very excited to get some outside input from where we could improve. We also are always trying to get better as a department. This is my 5th school year here, and we've had a lot of change since I've been here, but we're always looking to get better, to serve our students healthier, fresher foods, and to teach our staff different techniques that can benefit our students and also benefit the food service team. We were also really eager to create some relationships in school nutrition that would help us flourish. So one of the big things with the school food support initiative was, creating relationships with other districts and also creating relationships with the team that will be helping us so that we could get some fresh ideas to help serve our students better. Our experience through this grant process has been a really great experience. I'm not going to lie, it's been a lot of work. There's been a lot of trying times, but looking back over the past several months, I'm so glad that we participated in this grant opportunity. The application for me wasn't that difficult. I thought a lot of the questions were really great questions. I think I pulled the grant application up over a week's period of time and just tried to answer questions little by little. After I turned the application in, we did a phone interview, and that was, really easy. The staff with the Chef M Foundation and the School Food Support Initiative, they're amazing, so they make you feel very, very comfortable. They're here to help, so I always felt very comfortable with them. Once we received the grant, we went to the workshop in Boulder, Colorado, where, like Ann was saying earlier, we got to see that school system out there and all the wonderful things they were doing. We learned a lot. We got to meet all of the School Food Support Initiative team as well as the other districts participating. And, we were kind of overwhelmed in Boulder, but I feel like the team made it really easy for us to see that the things that they were doing out there had been happening over years and years. I mean, I think when we were out there, they had been working on things for 7 years. So they kept reiterating that these things don't happen overnight and that, you know, change takes a long time. And so that was really nice to get that encouragement from them. After the workshop,
Megan, and who, can you talk about who you took with you to the workshop? Because I think since Megan's by herself, her choice, this was actually kind of a funny story about who was going to be able to go to the workshop, because it was Colorado in winter. So
exactly, and so it was kind of a fight in my district of who would get to go. My assistant superintendent was going to come at one point, and then we ended up choosing our curriculum director for K through 5, because like Beth said numerous times, you have to have the support of your administration to make this possible, and you have to incorporate the curriculum side. And so we just felt that it was a really good fit to have someone who was overseeing that K through 5 curriculum come with me, because they got a really big insight as to what was going to happen and what was going to occur through this grant process. She was also able to come back and advocate with me. So when we were at our administrative meetings, when we would talk to our superintendent and assistant superintendent, she was saying, oh, yes, they're doing all these wonderful things out in Boulder. That would be great for our system. Oh, yes, we saw how they were doing this. And, oh, yes, I met her. She's, you know, a really creative person, or, you know, all those things, so she could kind of back me up on those things when we came back. The next part of the grant was the on-site assessment, and personally that was my favorite part. We had Nancy, who looked at the financial aspect of our department on-site, and we had Beth, who you're hearing from, on-site, and it was absolutely amazing. Beth was in the schools observing, and Nancy was here at the office working with me or the other people in our finance department who help with my department, looking at reports, trying to make things easier on us. You know, they gave us a bunch of Excel sheets that were already put together just to try to help us track our percentages and population, the percent of students eating, our revenue and expenses. So a lot of really great tools that they were able to offer us. Of course, the 3.5 days that they were here, they were really long days, but it's just me and my department, so I wanted to make sure I spent as much time with them as possible. They're very, very smart women, so I wanted to soak up anything that I could from them that they could help us with our district and getting our district better. Once we did the on-site assessment, Chef Ann and Beth came back and did a debrief. They actually did a debriefing on-site, Beth and Nancy did, with my superintendent, and let him know all the areas of concerns and all the wonderful things they saw here as well. Then they came back, Ann and Beth, and did an official debriefing. We had principals, assistant principals, my superintendent and assistant superintendent. We had a board member. We had teachers. We invited all these people to the debriefing so they could see where our nutrition department wants to go and what our goals for the future are and how we want to incorporate that into the school system. So I thought that was really nice that we had all the support from the whole district, and it went over really well. I mean, of course, there's some recommendations that, you know, were a little abrasive, well, not even abrasive, just different for our district, but that's the wonderful thing about working with this foundation. They tell you what they think is going to help you get better, but they work with you in a way to make it work for your district. It's not, oh, you have to do this. It doesn't matter what your district says. This is what you want to do. They're going to find ways to make it work in your district, even if it's going back to the drawing board 3 or 4 times, which me and Beth have done. For one particular incident, we've went back to the drawing board, I think, 3 or 4 times to make it work, and we're making it work now. Some of my tips for any of the applicants, you know, just know that depending on the size of your district, it is going to take some time. There's going to be some change involved, and that always, you know, takes time, and it can be it can be hard, but I think the change that's coming, especially in our district, they've all been very beneficial, and we're seeing some really great things happening in our district. Make sure your team, your food service team, your supervisors, anyone that helps you knows what's going on, because they're going to be a part of it, and you want them to be a part of it. You want them to be an advocate for your program, and it's just really important that they're all on board. And be honest. When Beth comes out and she sees stuff and you're like, oh, yeah, we do that. I mean, they're here to help. So, you know, sometimes I was like, ooh, gosh, I don't want to tell them that that's what we're doing. But, you know, in the end, that is what we're doing. They need to know they're here to help. So I think being honest and upfront with them was really important, and it really helped us get to the place where we wanted to get with this grant and as a district.
Yeah, and wouldn't you say that it was somewhat easier to have us talk to your superintendent about things that might been harder for you to talk about? Just, I mean, she has
Yes.
a really charismatic and strong superintendent. He's super awesome, but he's definitely got his position. You know, it's real clear. So I think that it was, you know, and we've run into this in other districts too, but I think Buford really had, you know, it has a very strong sense of what it is and what it does, and it's the best of everything. So I basically, with Megan's superintendent, it was sort of challenging him, does he want to be the best in food service? Because he's kind of the best in everything else. And you know, it's like you're the number one academic performance in the state of Georgia. I think we have some Georgia districts on today, so they might challenge that. But yeah, Megan's district's pretty awesome. And but it was, I thought that it really gave, you know, it's kind of like, you know, we felt like, I felt like Megan should feel like we've got her back, because she's in a tough position when you're the only person that's really responsible for everything, and he has a lot of confidence in you. Mm-hmm. But I think it's sometimes it's tough to kind of go against, in this case, just a lot of historical. There was a lot of historical habits in the program that made it harder for Megan to implement some of the changes she wants to do. So I think in that case the assessment was good. And then you applied for your support grant. What did you decide that you wanted to spend that money on? Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. Well, we did just apply for our grant, and what we would like to do for our grant is get salad bars in all of our schools for all of our students to have access to those. We also have one really old school, and some of the ovens just don't cook evenly. So that was another piece of the equipment grant that we had asked for some new ovens. We actually have two older schools. One of them, the ovens are bad. One of them, the warmers are bad. And so that was a piece that we asked for, was the new hot holding warmers, just to help keep that food consistency the way that it should be. And then we're also trying to expand breakfast. We have breakfast in the classroom at one of our schools, and it's went off really well, but our other three principals are just very resistant. They don't want to do it. So one of the pieces of equipment that I had asked for was one of those really neat breakfast carts that we could use at our middle school, just to make it more appealing for the teachers and the students, and help get the principal on board with some new awesome breakfast carts to roll out.
Cool.
Yep.
So I think that we've got some questions. Emily said we've got a ton of questions. So let's turn it back over to Curry to give us the lowdown.
Great. Well, this is Curry, and Beth and Megan, I just want to say thank you so much. It was really excellent information, diving into more details about the School Food Support Initiative and about the application process. And Megan, it was fantastic to hear your experience, and I'm sure folks have really appreciated that today. So thank you. And it is true, we have many questions coming in, so I will share our questions, and we will get as many as possible answered here in our time together today. So the first question is, will we have access to the webinar at a later date? And I am happy to share that yes, absolutely, you will have access to it. A couple of ways that you'll get, first of all, after this webinar, we'll send you an email with a link to where the webinar will be posted, and we are recording it today, and it will be posted on the lunchbox in our webinar section. So when you get that email, please do feel free to share that with your friends and colleagues in this work in your local area and across the country. And also please feel free to visit the lunchbox.org and go to the webinar section. All right, the next question is, how strict is the minimum enrollment of 3,000?
I would just say it's really going to depend on the applications. We always look at, from a funder's standpoint, you want to look at impact of the money that they're spending, so that also has something to do with it, with those decisions. But it's really going to depend on the mix of applicants we end up with. So I'm not going to say it absolutely is, if you were 2875 that you'd be out. If you're a 500 school district, I can assure you that you probably would not be considered. It's just too small for this particular grant.
Great. Thank you, Beth. The next question is, how do we find out where lifetime destinations are? And the answer to that is that we encourage you to visit their website, lifetimefitness.com, and there's a section on there you can go to the Locate Club section, and they have a fantastic map and listing of their destinations there.
And I just want to add that not all of the districts that are selected are going to be restricted to that. So it's not, if you're not near one, it's not the end of the world.
Exactly, thank you. Yes, a portion of funds are restricted to that destination proximity. I want to jump back to, someone had asked the question about who would be eligible or able to see the recorded webinar, and it's open and available for anyone to see. Just wanted to be sure and answer that question. The next question coming in is, can a before and after school program apply for this grant?
So I'm assuming that would be like a community organization that is providing before and after school programs. That would not qualify.
Thank you, Bob. The next question is, what do we do if we can't get the reports or the budget information in an Excel format?
If you can't, then you'll probably be able to pull it in Crystal Reports in a PDF. That's fine. Most financial systems can export in Excel. So we like to, it's just a little easier to deal with the document that way. But if you can't, provide it in a PDF.
Great, thank you, Beth. And thanks, there's some excellent questions continuing to come in. The next question is, what do we do if we have more menus to upload than what's available in the application?
I think if you're running like a different, I forget exactly how it's set up, but we asked for menu cycle planning documents, which if you are running cycles and you've got a document that kind of shows, I'm running a 5-week cycle and it shows your whole cycle, we'd like to see that. And then what happens lots of times is the actual monthly menus, the district I was just in has actually 19 different versions of their menu because of the various school types they have. It's actually a similar menu, but it's different. Just, upload a couple of examples. It's not necessary for us to see every every iteration. I'm mostly interested in looking at how you're planning your menus, and you know, an example, what does your menu look like that you publish? I can go to your website if the, you know, we do look at the websites if the menus are up. We can look at that as well. So it's not just use whatever upload. I think she's got several listed, but it's not. Or you can also take the PDF. If they're PDFs, you could combine them and make them into one document. But it's really not a huge issue as long as we have a good example of what you're doing.
Great, thank you, Beth. And I did want to take a moment on behalf of the Chef Ann Foundation support team here. I wanted to make sure that everyone knows you are welcome to reach out to us at info@chefannfoundation.org or by phone with any questions or, you know, big or small. Feel free to reach out to us because, as Megan shared, and you know, we are here to help. So we will be sure and share that email as well as our phone number of how you can reach us when we email out after this webinar. So the next question is, do you have any districts with this grant under Provision 2?
Yeah, actually 2 of the districts that were in the last cohort were operating, they were actually operating under community eligibility provision, so all of their schools were claiming as free.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Beth. Next question is, this is my first year being a food service director and I don't have previous experience. Would you advise me to apply for this grant at a later time?
Not necessarily. It might be a real boon for you to have to receive the grant. I've been in that. I've done assessments with directors in that position. It does provide quite a bit of technical assistance that could be helpful.
This would have been amazing in my first year.
All right, thank you both for answering that. One of our attendees is asking, if chosen, how long does the support last? And how does the foundation help support embedding the program as part of the culture of the district?
Well,
how long
does the support last?
Go ahead,
well, you figure from the time that you start the process, which would be at the workshop, depending on when you have your assessment, what size district you are, you know, that piece, that amount of time, it does connect somewhat with the size. Then we come back, we work on strategy. How you use your technical assistance time is, you know, you're kind of in control of that to a certain degree. And then we do follow the district, so we will touch back with you because you'll go through that grant process of receiving the support grant, which doesn't have to be equipment. It could be professional services, it could be software. There's a lot of things that could be other than equipment. So depending on your timeline on that, you know, you're looking at engagement connection of a real solidly in that 18-month range, and then extended. In that case, you know, we're looking at supporting through your connections with the organization and the cohort team. You know, we're not going to be hands-on beyond that unless you hire us to do that. You know, I think the goal is to give you a realistic roadmap for achievable steps. One of the things we do in assessment work is we make sure we're not recommending something that you really can't do. Either you can't do it financially, or you can't, you know, it's just unrealistic. We're not trying to, you know, that would be the easy way of doing the assessment. You say, well, you know, you need this, 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 and this. Good luck, bye-bye. You know, it's really not like that. So, you know, a lot of this is positioning you to do the work. You know, the work still has to be done by you. So we can't do it for you, but we can certainly frame it in such a way that it's achievable for you. So.
Great. Thanks for answering, Beth. And also, I just wanted to share in response, or as a follow-up to that, that of course here as the Chef-Ann Foundation Programs team, we are, it's the mission of our organization to continue to help all districts providing tools and resources and grant opportunities. So we are excited to have relationships with all of our grantees, and so this is just the beginning of us getting to work together too.
Yeah, I really think the other piece to that is it really depends on your level of engagement. I think we make change, as an individual or as a team or an organization. Your desire to make change or to implement programs and strategies is, it's self-fulfilling. So that what we see is like, and I'll use Megan as an example, she's an extremely motivated individual. So she has a vision, and this is something we'll talk a lot about within this process, being able to identify, what you're really committed to is really the key step in all this, because you can do it a lot of different ways, but if you don't actually have the vision piece down, you don't know where you're going. So the districts that are able to identify that and then break that out into actual steps that they can take are the ones that really do the best in this kind of work and are successful. And I'll follow up. The next question I can see here is, what impact does this have on the financial bottom line? That piece is very thoroughly covered through the assessment process. We're very realistic about looking at your fiscal position at the point that we're there. We look at the history. Hopefully you're able to provide enough history for us to have a really clear view of where you are now. We look at your participation. We look at what types of things can impact participation, what sorts of things have you done that may have impacted participation negatively or positively, and this is all about participation. So one of the things we find and the most common thing is districts that have, they've really lost the participation of a lot of their paid parents, especially, let's say, the districts that are in that 25 to 45, 50%, even or lower, even the lower free and reduced districts. They've lost that participation. So how do they get that back? And they may be running their program and balancing it with a la carte sales. So we look at all of the various positions that districts can be in fiscally, and we try to say, look, if you want to move in this direction, these are the recommendations. It might be attached to the labor, your productivity. I go into a lot of districts where the historical labor assignment, it just hasn't changed. The programs have changed, the participation's changed, but the labor didn't change. And the program is not running as efficiently as it can. Efficiency is key. And if you want to become more complex, you have to be able to have your finger on the pulse of every piece of the operation in order to ensure that you're running your program responsibly. Not that you're not trying to be responsible, but you're really trying to do it in the most fiscal responsible manner you can. We do run into districts where there is a lot of support for program change, and the district itself is willing to invest from the general fund to help the food service department make a program shift. That's not out of the blue. It does happen. So, it really depends on the individual district's position and their community and where they're at, and we look at all that when we select a district.
Great, thank you, Beth. I just wanted to take a moment and let all of our attendees know that we do recognize we have about 45 seconds left officially in our webinar. However, we were going to continue to take a couple of questions. So if you need to jump off, we understand that, and thank you so much for participating, but we will take 2 more questions here. So the next question is, in regards to scratch cook operations, is there a minimum number of food items expected to meet this eligibility?
I don't think I would look at it from the point of whether you're making a item or 10 items from scratch. I look at it more systemically. So how are you positioned to handle whole foods? So in your applications, you could describe, you know, these are the steps we're taking, because we know it's not just about what happens in the tilt skillet or the kettle. You know, it's really about your perspective on menu planning, ingredient procurement. Do you have the bandwidth to recipe tests and kid tests? Kind of where are you in that spectrum? It wouldn't necessarily have to be, oh yeah, I get a lot of, well, we're 50% scratch, but it's even defining what is scratch is kind of, an interesting exercise I always do in workshops. I love doing that exercise. It's like, what defines it? And for some people, it's like a recipe defines it, or, not having anything that comes out of a box. Well, we know, there's a lot of things that come in boxes, that you may use on a regular basis. Like you might be making a marinara sauce from a variety of tomato products, for example. We're not saying that you need to go out and harvest the tomatoes. It'd be great if you could, but bottom line, I think it's more about how you're positioned. We're not going to count entrees. I'm not going to know. I mean, lots of times I can't tell from what you write in the menu whether you're cooking from scratch or not. If I can tell a lot more by looking at your velocity reports and your commodity allocation, so I'm probably going to be looking at that to kind of see, where you're at, and then we'll follow up, where we have an interactive process. So if we have a question about your application or something that's not clear, we'll just ask you. So that's going to be part of the evaluation process.
Excellent, thank you. One more question that we have here. These are excellent questions, everyone. Thank you so much. We are looking at buying some equipment this year. If we were chosen, would the foundation recommend what to buy since this type of service is different than what is included in the grant?
We generally do. Well, I do review facilities as part of the assessment process, and in districts that are in an active process of either building kitchens or let's say they're doing a bond and they need to spec a kitchen, we always look at kitchen spec. We look at, what you're doing now and where you're going as far as that location, the number of meals you're going to be producing there, that sort of thing. So we definitely can give you recommendations on the equipment.
Great. And our final question today is about the Systems Assistance Grant. Just to clarify, at what point does the opportunity to apply for a $50,000 grant come into place?
That happens after you've completed the debrief and strategic. So you've gone through the workshop, the assessment, and the debrief, and at that point you can apply for it. And it's not a real lengthy process because it's really totally tied to your assessment. So the application, there is an additional application. It's directed specifically to the recommendations that came up in your assessment. So how are you responding to that with regards to that request? So if you ask for something that's totally outside of what we discussed in the assessment, that wouldn't be the right direction to go. So it's pretty straightforward, and it doesn't take a long time to complete.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for answering questions, and Beth and Megan for your participation today. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much to all of our attendees for your time. We know it's incredibly precious. We really appreciate your interest in the program, and we also just want to take a moment to say thank you so much for doing what you're doing out there to provide healthier food for children across this country. I want to say a thanks to our Lunchbox webinar partner, the Lifetime Foundation, for sponsoring this event, and for Chef Ann Foundation programs, and of course to the Lifetime Foundation as well, and also to our partners at Whole Kids Foundation for being partners and supporters of the School Food Support Initiative program. So thank you all. We will be sending an email with the link to the recorded webinar, and we hope to see your applications coming in. Thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you.